Harlen Zane hadn't even finished his second beer when the guy 2 tables over started shouting at the woman in the red coat. It was supposed to be a quiet night. Just him and a burger at O'Malley's Bar and Grill after picking up his 7-year-old son, Beau, from his mom's place. But now Beau was with his neighbor Mrs. Delgado had offered to babysit for 3 hours so he could finally breathe. Instead, here he was, standing up from his stool because some drunk idiot was grabbing a stranger's wrist like she owed him something. "Hey," Harlan's voice cut through the bar like a blade. "Let go of her." The guy turned, red-faced and slurring. "Mind your business, man." Harlen didn't hesitate. He stepped between them, his body shielding the woman, who was frozen with wide eyes and a tight jaw. Harlen gently moved her behind him. "She is my business now." The drunk swung. Sloppy. Harlen ducked it, grabbed the guy's shoulder, and shoved him hard enough that he stumbled back into a chair. The bouncer finally showed up, dragging the drunk out by his collar. The place buzzed with murmurs, but Harlen turned around to face the woman. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded slowly, still gripping the edge of her coat. "Yeah, thanks to you." Her voice was soft, but there was something sharp behind it. Not fear, more like control. Like she wasn't used to needing help. "I'm Harlen," he said, offering his hand. "Savina," she replied, shaking at once. Her grip was firm, her hand warm. "Savina Blackwell." He didn't recognize the name. Just noticed the way she stood straight again, like nothing had happened. But her cheeks were flushed, and she was blinking fast, like she'd been rattled more than she wanted to admit. "You sure you're okay?" he asked again, softer this time. "I am now." She glanced at the door, then back at him. "Do you live around here?" "Couple blocks. I've got my kid at home. Well, with a neighbor." Her eyes lit up like he'd said something incredible. "You're a dad." "Yeah, Beau, 7 years old. Smart as hell, loves dinosaurs." She laughed at that. "That's adorable." He rubbed the back of his neck. "Sorry for jumping in like that, just didn't seem right to stand by." "I'm glad you didn't." Before either of them could say more, the bartender came over and placed a fresh drink in front of her. "On the house," he said, then he looked at Harlen. "And you too, thanks for stepping in." Harlen gestured to the empty stool beside him. "You wanna sit?" She hesitated. For a second, he thought she'd say no. But then she nodded, slid onto the stool, and looked at him like she was trying to figure out a puzzle. They talked for an hour. About everything and nothing. Harlen told her he worked construction, that after his wife walked out 5 years ago, he'd raised Beau on his own. That things were tight, but he was doing his best. He didn't sugarcoat it. She didn't seem like the kind of woman who liked sugar-coated things anyway. Savina asked questions, not the polite kind, but the kind that meant she was really listening. She told him she worked in investments, didn't give details, he didn't push. "You're easy to talk to," she said eventually, nursing the last of her drink. He looked at her hands, delicate, manicured, but her nails were short, practical, and her coat, not just red, rich red, the kind of fabric that shimmered subtly in the dim bar light. Designer, maybe, but she didn't act like it. "You're not from around here, are you?" he asked. "Nope, just visiting." "Family?" "Business?" He nodded, sensing that was all he was gonna get. They walked out together when the bar started clearing. It had started to rain lightly, and Harlen shrugged off his jacket and held it over her head. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to." She paused under the awning, looking up at him. "I don't usually do this," she said. "Do what?" "Talk to strangers in bars, accept jackets, let people defend me." Her eyes searched his. "But I'm glad I did tonight." He smiled. "Me too." She reached into her purse and pulled out a sleek black card. No name, just a number. "If you ever want to talk again," she said. He took the card but didn't look at it. He looked at her. "I'd like that." She nodded, then walked down the street toward a waiting black car, the kind with a driver. Harlen stared after it, confused, but chalked it up to her being someone important. Rich, maybe. He shoved the card in his pocket and walked home. The next morning, Beau climbed onto his lap at breakfast. "You look happy," his son said, mouth full of cereal. Harlen smiled. "Met someone nice last night." "Are you gonna marry her?" He laughed. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves, bud." But even as he said it, he found himself pulling the black card from his pocket and thinking, maybe. He called the number 3 days later. And everything changed. It was the second time Harlen had dialed the number on that sleek black card, and the first time he'd ever been invited to dinner at the kind of place with no prices on the menu. He stood in front of the restaurant now, tugging at the collar of his only blazer, the one he wore to parent-teacher conferences and funerals. The valet had looked him over like he'd taken a wrong turn on his way to a burger joint. Harlen didn't care. He was here because Savina had asked him to be, not because he fit in. "Reservation for 2, the hostess asked, barely glancing at him before checking the list. "Follow me, sir." He was led past glittering chandeliers and tables where people sipped from long-stemmed glasses like they were born knowing which fork to use. And then there she was. Savina looked like someone who knew exactly what power felt like and wore it like a second skin. Her dress was a deep navy, tailored perfectly, with a neckline that hinted at curves and confidence. She stood as he approached, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "I wasn't sure you'd call," she said. "I wasn't sure you'd answer." She smiled, not coyly, but with a kind of ease that hadn't been there the night they met. "I always answer when it matters." They sat. A waiter appeared instantly, pouring water into crystal glasses and offering wine menus. Harlen glanced around, then leaned in. "Is this one of those places where the bill comes in a leather folder that makes you question your life choices?" Her eyes sparkled. "Don't worry, tonight's on me." "I'm not looking for a handout." "I didn't say you were. I invited you. That makes it a gift." He studied her across the table. The lighting caught the sharp angle of her jaw, the precision of her appearance. There was nothing accidental about the way she carried herself. "So what is it you really do, Savina?" She tilted her head, considering. "I own things." "That's vague." "It's intentional." Harlen nodded slowly. "You always this careful?" "Only when have something to lose." He didn't press. Instead, he let the silence settle for a moment, then asked, "What made you give me that card?" "You didn't ask for anything from me. That's rare." "I didn't think you owed me anything." "That's even rarer." The food arrived, some kind of delicate seafood dish he couldn't pronounce, but forced himself to try. It was good. Too good. The kind of food that made you briefly forget about unpaid bills and broken dishwashers. As the night stretched on, the conversation shifted. Not to jobs or money, but to smaller things. Beau's favorite books. Savina's childhood dog. Her favorite city to get lost in. Harlen listened, noticing how she chose her words like weapons carefully, precisely, but there were moments where the armor cracked. When she laughed about crashing her first car or admitted she still couldn't make rice without burning it. "Let me guess," he said, swirling the last of his water. "You grew up in some mansion with marble floors." She looked at him for a long moment. "Not exactly." "Then where?" "I grew up in a 5th-floor walk-up in Queens. No AC. My mom worked 3 jobs. My father left when I was 6. She set her fork down. "The money came later, after I learned how to never need anyone again." Harlen didn't speak right away. He just nodded. "Guess we've both been learning the hard way." She leaned forward, elbows on the table now, less polished, more real. "Why haven't you ever remarried?" He hesitated, because haven't met someone who made me want to try again. And you think I might. I think you're the first person who's made me forget how damn tired I am. She didn't look away. That's a dangerous thing to say on a first date. Who says this is a first date? Savina's lips curved slightly. Then what is it? I don't know yet, but I think I want to find out. They left the restaurant side by side. The doorman called a car before Harlen could offer to walk her. A sleek black vehicle pulled up, the kind with tinted windows and a driver in a suit. He raised a brow. Business doing well, I see. I told you, I own things. She stepped closer, her perfume catching the breeze, something expensive and barely there. She reached into her clutch, pulled out a small envelope, and handed it to him. What's this? An invitation. To what? She stepped into the car before answering. To my world. The door shut, and the car pulled away. Harlen opened the envelope. Inside was a cream-colored card with gold lettering. It was an invitation to a gala, black tie, Saturday evening, a benefit for something he couldn't pronounce. At the bottom, in handwriting that didn't match the rest of the print, was a message. Bring your son if you want. I'd like to meet him. Harlen stood frozen on the sidewalk, the envelope heavy in his hand. Whatever this was, it wasn't simple. And it wasn't over. The marble foyer gleamed like a mirror beneath Harlen's scuffed dress shoes, and for a moment, he felt like an intruder in someone else's fantasy. He'd made sure Beau was dressed in his best navy blazer, khaki pants, and a clip-on tie that had taken 3 tries to fasten right. Mrs. Delgado had offered to watch him again, but when Harlen told her about the gala, she laughed and insisted, that boy's gonna charm them all. Let him go. Now Harlen adjusted his own black tie with stiff fingers. The tux had arrived that morning, hand-delivered in a garment bag with a card that read, no excuses. No name, no return address, just the same flawless handwriting as the gala invitation. Dad, Beau whispered, tugging his sleeve, this place smells like lemons and candles. That's because it probably costs more than our whole building, Harlen muttered. A man in a dark suit with an earpiece approached them. Mr. Zane, Miss Blackwell is expecting you. Before Harlen could respond, the man was already turning, leading them through a corridor lined with silver-framed photos of people Harlen had only ever seen on magazine covers. Politicians, athletes, celebrities, all smiling beside a woman who, until a week ago, had been a mystery in a red coat. The ballroom doors opened. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings. Waiters in white gloves moved between tables draped in silk. A live orchestra played something slow and rich. Beau clutched Harlen's hand tighter. And then he saw her. Savina stood near the stage, speaking with a tall woman in a floor-length gown. Her dress tonight was black, sleek, and understated, if understatement could still cost more than Harlen made in a month. Her hair was swept up, revealing a pair of diamond earrings that probably required their own insurance policy. She turned as if she felt him. Harlen, she said, her tone warmer than the room deserved. Her eyes dropped to Beau. And this must be the famous dinosaur expert. Beau leaned closer to his dad but didn't hide. I know a lot about pteranodons. Savina knelt, ignoring the fact that her heels probably weren't made for crouching. I hope you'll tell me all about them. I've always wanted to learn. Harlen watched, stunned. No condescension, no fake smile, just genuine curiosity in her voice. Beau tilted his head. Are you a rich lady? Savina didn't flinch. Yes, but I didn't start that way. Cool, Beau said. My dad makes the best pancakes. He flips 'em in the air. Savina looked up at Harlen. Talented and brave. I'm impressed. He shoved his hands into his pockets. You sure you want us here? I invited you. Yeah, but this isn't exactly our scene. I didn't ask you to fit in, Harlen. I asked you to show up, and you did. Before he could reply, someone called her name from the stage. A man in a gray suit, clearly waiting for her. Duty calls, she said, rising to her feet. Sit wherever you like. My name's on the event, so technically, every table is yours. She disappeared toward the stage, the crowd parting for her without hesitation. Harlen found an empty table near the edge, away from the spotlight. Beau climbed into a chair, instantly reaching for the silver place card. Dad, this says truffle risotto. Do I have to eat that? Only if it doesn't try to eat you first. Beau giggled. A woman in a blue dress sat beside them, nodding politely. So, how do you know Savina? Harlen glanced at the stage, where Savina was giving a speech about education reform and investment in underfunded schools. Her voice was clear, commanding. I don't think I know her at all, he said. But you're sitting here, the woman replied, sipping her wine. That means something. When the speech ended, applause echoed through the ballroom. Savina returned a few minutes later, sliding into the seat beside Beau. I thought you'd be at the head table, Harlen said. I'd rather be here. Dinner was served. Conversation flowed. Beau told her about his science project and asked if she had any pets. She confessed she once owned a parrot that only knew how to swear. Harlen nearly choked on his water. Later, after dessert plates were cleared, Savina stood again, gesturing for Harlen to follow. They stepped out onto a terrace lit by strings of golden lights. The city stretched out beyond them, all glass and steel and sky. She stood at the railing, wind tugging at a loose strand of hair. You handled tonight better than most men I've brought into this world. Is that a compliment? It's a warning. He moved beside her. You always do that, push people away before they can walk out on you. She didn't answer right away. I don't trust easily. I'm not asking you to. But you want more. He turned to face her. I don't know what this is, Savina, but I know how it feels when I'm around you, and I know my son likes you. That's not nothing. She looked at him then, really looked. I've spent my life building walls so high no one could see inside, and then you just walked through the front door. I tore it off the hinges, actually. That made her laugh softly, no polish, no performance. Just a woman at the edge of something terrifying. I'm not scared of much, she said, but with you, I don't know where this goes. Then let's find out together. He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. Inside, the music swelled. Outside, beneath the lights and the noise, and the city that never slowed down, a billionaire held hands with a man who wore borrowed tuxedos and made pancakes on weekends. And for the first time in years, neither of them felt alone. Harlen stood on the balcony of Savina's penthouse, the city stretching wide and endless beneath them. The buzz of traffic far below was faint, background noise to the silence that had settled between them. Inside, Beau was curled up on the velvet couch, fast asleep beneath a soft throw blanket, his dinosaur plush tucked under his arm. Savina had ordered him a grilled cheese and strawberry lemonade from the private kitchen earlier, and then read aloud from a book she'd pulled from a shelf lined with first ed. Harlen leaned on the railing, not to admire the skyline, but to collect his thoughts. The air was colder up here, thinner somehow, or maybe that was just nerves. You didn't tell me your company funds the entire East River Education Initiative, he said, without turning around. Savina stepped beside him, her heels silent on the smooth stone tile. I didn't think it mattered. It does. That program saved Beau's school last year. They were going to cut the library. She said nothing at first, only looked out over the shimmering buildings. Then, I didn't know that. I think you did, he said. Just didn't expect it to come back around like this. Savina exhaled, the kind of breath people release when they've been holding something in too long. I'm used to control, planning, knowing what to expect from people. But you, she hesitated, you're not a variable I planned for. I didn't come here to complicate your life, Savina. But you did, she said quietly, and I let you. He turned toward her fully now. So what do we do with that? She met his gaze. I've been building walls around my life for so long, I forgot what it feels like to let someone in without a condition attached. Harlen's voice was steady. You don't have to give me anything. I'm not here for your money or your world. I know that. Then what's scaring you? I don't want to be the reason your son gets hurt, or you. You won't be, he stepped closer. But if you keep holding me at arm's length, that'll do more damage than anything else. Her eyes didn't waver. There's a board meeting tomorrow. They're pushing me to expand overseas. If I agree, I'd be gone 6 months of the year. He nodded slowly. And you're telling me this because? Because for the first time in years, I don't want to go. He reached for her hand. Then don't. It's not that simple. Sure it is, you choose what matters most. She looked down at their hands, then back at the city. I've spent so long building an empire, I've forgotten what it's like to build a life. Harlen didn't reply. He just closed the gap between them, his hand warm against hers. Inside, Bo stirred slightly on the couch, then settled again. You asked me once why I gave you that card, Savina said after a while. It wasn't just because you defended me. It was because in that moment you weren't afraid to act. That's rare in the world I come from. People hesitate, they calculate, but you didn't, you just moved. I didn't see a stranger, Harlen said. I saw someone who needed help, that's all. No, she said. You saw me, the real me. Not the name, not the accounts or the shares, just me. He nodded, and I liked what I saw. The silence between them stretched again, but this time it felt whole, complete. I have to tell you something, she said, her voice softer now. I'm selling one of the companies. His brows lifted. Why? Because I don't need it anymore. I don't want to spend the next decade chasing numbers. I want dinners that don't require reservations. I want mornings where I make pancakes instead of conference calls. I want Bo to teach me about whatever new creature he's obsessed with next. Harlen's heart thudded. You're serious? I've never been more. He swallowed hard. What are you going to do instead? I was thinking of starting something smaller, something local, maybe a foundation for single parents. Hire people who have been overlooked. Give them a chance to build something real. He stared at her stunned. That's not small. It is to me. She smiled then, but not the polished kind she wore in public. This one was quieter, more personal, and I want you to help me do it. I don't know anything about running a foundation. You know how to fight for people, that's more than most. Bo's voice drifted out from the living room. Dad. Harlen stepped inside to kneel beside the couch. Hey, bud, you all right? Bo rubbed his eyes. Can we stay for breakfast? Harlen looked at Savina, who was already nodding. Yeah, Harlen said, we can stay. The next morning, the three of them sat around the kitchen island as the chef prepared a stack of pancakes nearly a foot tall. Bo chatted nonstop about a museum exhibit he wanted to visit. Savina listened with her chin in her palm, eyes bright. Later, as they walked through the park together, Harlen glanced at her. You really meant it, didn't you? About staying. I did. And us. She stopped walking, turning to face him. I'm in this, completely, no more conditions, no more distance. Then I guess I'm in it too. She reached for his hand, lacing her fingers through his. Good, because I've never loved anyone like this before. He didn't answer right away. He just leaned in, kissed her gently, and whispered, Neither have I. They walked forward, the city around them alive and breathing, but for once everything felt still. Whole. And Harlen realized something. He hadn't just fallen in love with a woman. He'd fallen in love with the life they were building together. One where his son could grow up, surrounded by strength and kindness. One where love didn't come with limits. One where a billionaire chose a struggling dad not because she needed saving, but because she finally wanted something real. And for the first time in a long, long time, Harlen Zane knew he wasn't just surviving anymore. He was living. The first Saturday of spring arrived with a stubborn breeze and a sky so clear it felt painted. Harlen stood in front of a modest brick building tucked between a community garden and a shuttered laundromat. The sign above the entrance was brand new, the Blackwell Zane Foundation, etched in brushed steel. Inside, the space still smelled faintly of fresh paint and new beginnings. The reception area was simple but elegant framed artwork from local kids had replaced the sterile posters that had once hung there, and the open concept office beyond buzzed with quiet productivity. A few of the new hires single parents, out-of-work teachers, and people who'd been overlooked too many times were gathered around a table, sorting through donation requests. Harlen adjusted the collar of his button-down and stepped into the director's office. Savina was seated at her desk, her heels kicked off beneath the chair, barefoot against the polished floor, typing something with a focus that made her look both powerful and completely at ease. "You always work this early on a Saturday?" he asked, leaning against the doorway. She looked up slowly, eyes bright. "Only when I'm excited." He crossed the room and perched on the edge of the desk. "Excited about what?" "Our first official grant just went through. We're funding a mobile tutoring van for 3 underserved high schools across the borough. It starts next week." He let out a low breath. "You don't do anything halfway, do you?" "No, and neither do you." She reached for his hand, intertwining their fingers with a quiet confidence that had grown between them. No more hesitations, no more lines drawn in sand, just two people who'd stopped pretending they belonged in different worlds. "I was thinking," she said, tilting her chin up toward him, "we should take Beau to the coast next weekend. He's never seen the ocean." He blinked. "That's a long trip for a weekend." "I already booked a place. There's a marine center nearby, they have a fossil dig site, and a planetarium." He grinned. "You're trying to win favorite person status." "I already did," she said. "He told me yesterday you're a close second." Harlen laughed and leaned down to kiss her forehead. "I'm fine being second." "No, you're not," she whispered. There was a knock at the door. One of the foundation's coordinators poked her head in. "Sorry to interrupt, Miss Blackwell." "Savina." "Right, Savina. The press team's here for the photo shoot." Harlen started to stand, but Savina pulled him back by his hand. "You're in it too." "I'm not exactly photogenic." "You're part of this, you're not hiding." He hesitated, but then nodded. "All right, but if they ask me questions, I'm bringing up your parrot." "You wouldn't dare." "I absolutely would." Later that afternoon, the photo shoot wrapped with a group picture outside the building. Savina stood beside Harlen, one hand on his back, the other resting on Beau's shoulder. The boy was mid-laugh, his cheeks red from running around with the staff's children. After the cameras were packed away and the guests had left, the 3 of them walked home together. Not to her penthouse, but to a brownstone she'd quietly bought 2 blocks from the foundation. It had a backyard with uneven stones, a swing hanging from a tree, and a kitchen large enough for pancake breakfasts and science projects. Savina opened the door and let them inside, where the smell of something baking filled the air. "Did you do this?" Harlen asked, setting down the tote bag of books Beau had checked out from the school library. She shrugged, followed a recipe, mostly. "Chocolate chip," Beau called from the kitchen. Half chocolate chip, half butterscotch, she replied. Harlen raised a brow. You really don't do anything halfway. She stepped in close, resting her hands on his chest. You're the only thing I've ever wanted completely. He kissed her then, not tentative or questioning, but with the deep, steady warmth of someone who finally understood what it meant to be chosen back. That night, after Beau had fallen asleep upstairs with a book still open on his chest, Harlen and Savina sat in the backyard beneath a string of soft lights. She curled into his side, her head on his shoulder. I never thought I'd have this, she said quietly. What? A life that felt like mine, she answered. Not one I built to prove something, just one that makes me happy. He tightened his arm around her. We made it together. She closed her eyes, and for a while, they just listened to the breeze rattling the leaves above them. No noise, no deals, no expectations. Just peace. The following months passed in a rhythm they never knew they could have. Mornings with coffee and mismatched mugs, afternoons at the foundation, evenings of homework and board games. They traveled when they could. Beau's first airplane ride, his wild fascination with jellyfish, Savina's growing addiction to roadside diners. The foundation grew, but never outpaced their lives. It became what they'd wanted it to be, a place where people mattered more than margins. Their home filled with laughter, the kind that echoed in the walls and stayed there. On a warm summer evening beneath the tree in their yard, surrounded by friends, staff, and the community they'd helped build, Harlen asked her to marry him. He didn't do it with fireworks or fanfare. Just a simple ring and a promise spoken while Beau clung to his leg and Savina's eyes filled with quiet tears. She said yes with both hands on his cheeks and her whole heart in her voice. They married in the garden 3 months later. Beau stood between them in a suit too big for his shoulders, grinning like the world had finally made sense. And in that moment, it had. Because love wasn't about matching lives. It was about building a new one together, brick by brick. And that's exactly what they did.